Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how I casted a Welsh Love Spoon out of tin, which I'm about to use to propose to my boyfriend. I'm going to cover how I made the spoon model, how I made a 2-part silicone mold, how I cast the tin, and a little bit of the post-processing that I did. It's a very long video, so you will not hurt my feelings if you skip around or don't watch the whole thing. This is my first time tin casting. I did watch a lot of YouTube videos to learn how to do this, but I didn't find a lot of videos that showed the whole process for making the 2-part mold as well as the tin casting, so I thought I'd make a video to show that as well as document this experience. So a quick history lesson is that Welsh Love Spoon started in the 17th century, where a young man would carve a spoon out of a single piece of wood and give it to a woman to show his intent to court her. Over time, the spoons became more and more intricate, and they would indicate to a woman's family that the man was dedicated and skilled. Welsh love spoons are actually where the term spooning comes from. My heritage is Welsh, and I've always wanted to propose to someone by using a Welsh love spoon. I did try my hand at wood carving, and I cracked 3 spoons before I decided I needed to do something else, so that's what led me to tin casting instead. This is the spoon model that I made. The metal part is made of 9-gauge wire, so 3 millimeters thick. I was a little worried that would be too thin to tin cast, but it turned out okay with the air venting that I did. There's also some air hardening clay between the joints, and that's what the spoon bowl is made of. So here I'm prepping to pour the mold, and so what I've done is surround my spoon model with a bunch of this non-hardening clay, so this just won't get hard. And so I've gotten it in with little tools as best as I can so that it's halfway up all of the different little ridges so that the 2-part mold will pull together easily. I've also got in here a sprue for pouring the mold. I'll probably have to work out a little bit of this or fix that hole after the mold's poured, but that shouldn't be a big deal. I've actually used the bottom of an old toothbrush to make that. You are supposed to pour the thickest part of your model. That's where your sprue is supposed to be located from the videos I've watched. I also have in here these toothpicks, which are going to be for air venting. And then I've also made with the bottom of a pen these little registration marks, which so when I pour the first half of the mold, it will fill in there and they will fit together more easily. So now I've taken the model and constructed a box made out of MDF around it to contain the silicone mold when I pour it. So the silicone rubber that I'm going to use is called Mold Max 60, which seems to be the most common choice for doing tin casting nowadays if you're going to use a silicone rubber. So it's a 2-part mix where this part A is 100 parts and then the part B is 3 parts by weight. So I have a little gram scale over here. One thing that they really suggest, and I saw in a lot of other videos, is to degas the polymer to get rid of all the bubbles, which will give you a better surface finish. So you can buy a vacuum chamber and pump online for about $130. I didn't really want to spend that to have it all lying around in the garage, and I don't know how I'm going to use this again, so I made my own, where I've got a little tube here and then a giant syringe just to suck out the air. There's 2 one-way valves here, so that when I pull out, it is sucking from this valve, and when I push down, it is only releasing through here. So we're going to see how that works. My seal has not been super airtight when I put the top on, so I'm going to just try and seal it up with some electrical tape, and hopefully that helps. It only needs to be degassed for about 2 to 3 minutes, so hopefully this is good enough. I've now poured both individual parts of the silicone mixture with 100 parts over there by weight and 3 parts over here by weight. It is really messy to work with this stuff, just as a heads up. So now I'm gonna mix them together and then I'll do the vacuum chamber. Okay, so this is it coming out of the vacuum chamber. It looks like maybe some bubbles on top maybe came out, so hopefully that's a good sign. We will see. I definitely know I got a vacuum to some degree because this part was definitely being suctioned in a whole bunch, and I just continued to pump the entire time. Okay, so the mold is all poured. I actually only did one batch and I was expecting to do 2. So then I'm also going to take this, and I've been kind of shaking it or slamming it against the table to try and see if I can get any more bubbles to come up, just to try and help them escape, because it was very thick when I was pouring. So now we just let it sit.
After 24 hours, the silicone mold is completely dry, so I removed it from the MDF box and am now removing the soft clay to expose the other half of the model. The model did get a bit damaged during this process, and some of the edges of the mold were sloppy around the model. I did go in with an X-Acto knife and I cleaned up some of the edges in the mold. There had been kind of some rough areas where the mold had kind of gone over my model in places I didn't want it to, so I cleaned that up. Also, my model had cracked over here, and I filled that in with non-drying clay. Before pouring the second half of the mold, I coated the first half and the model in a layer of Vaseline to act as a mold release agent so that the 2 mold halves would not stick together. Okay, so we're here doing the second half of the mold, and we are trying to do this very quickly because Daniel is home upstairs in a meeting, and I don't know when it's going to be done. So, didn't take video of a lot of this because of that. Alright, we are pouring the second half of the mold. I have a layer of Vaseline on the first half and have mixed up about 500 grams worth of solution, and I'm hoping it's enough. I'm not sure. Because that spoon, the back of it sticks up a little bit more than the other half. So, we will see. Okay, so 500 grams was not enough for the second batch, or the second half of the mold. So here I am. I had to throw another 250 grams on top, and I didn't do the vacuum step because I was worried it was going to take too long. So I'm here on my dryer, and we're going to try to see if vibrations from the dryer will help. Ooh, but not on delicate. We want cotton. So we're going highest setting to see if vibrations from this dryer will help get some of the bubbles out of here. After another 24 hours for the second half of the model to cure, here's the final result. I don't show it in this video, but I did go in after this and remove some of the leftover clay. I also took my X-Acto knife and widened the opening to my sprue and the air vent holes so that those would flow better. I used arrowroot powder as a lubricant for my mold instead of talcum powder and blew out the excess powder with compressed air. I then clamped the mold together and put it in an aluminum pan to contain any spilled molten tin.
Okay, so I just want to show that I'm wearing my safety gloves, my safety goggles, long sleeves, and we're going to be doing this over a camp stove. Ooh, they look so cool! Ooh, that's fun. Alright, this is supposed to be okay with a wooden spoon.
Okay.
I don't know.
What is
Alright, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just gonna do this. Yeah. Oh, that is going smoother than I thought that would. Forgot, how much is it gonna take? Oh no, it stopped. Is it like leaking places?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, there we go.
Alright.
Okay. I'm not gonna put it back on there. That actually was a lot more tin than I thought it would be.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Ooh.
Okay?
Yes, let's see. Hopefully it's not still molten inside.
Is there a top?
I mean, it doesn't really matter. Ooh, okay. That worked better. Okay, so this part is a little iffy, but, and it's still warm.
Yeah.
But my air holes worked, so that's cool.
Yeah.
It took me about 5 tries to get a good casting that I was happy with where all of the details got filled in. I did have to make one modification right there where I had to create a little channel so that this loop actually got filled in. Sometimes my metal was too hot, and when that happened, it would not cool down enough here, so all of the metal would leak out my lowest air holes and I would barely fill in any of this. So I tried to make sure it wasn't too hot. A way I tested that was the wood spoon I was using would start smoking if it was too hot. I also kind of eyeballed it a bit. The final version of my spoon is the result of a lot of experimentation with my Dremel. I played around with a lot of the different bits here for grinding, little wire brushes, to try and get the finish smooth. What I found was most effective is for this bowl area, I ended up using sandpaper. I believe I went from 120 grit and then went on increments all the way down to 1500 grit. Once I got it pretty sanded smooth, I used a Dremel felt tip with the polishing compound to clean this up. That left this kind of gross residue, so I also then went up with these polish wipes and got it kind of shiny. I also did have to cut off a lot of things for the vent holes. These came off with a set of pliers pretty easily, but I did have to do some cutting with the Dremel, especially on like areas like this where I had to really grind down to get rid of the lip that was there. And that resulted in my final spoon. Not perfect, but I was pretty happy with the results.